experiences, it was actually our January workshop, was this Nature's Narratives, Improving Your Life with Nature Journaling. And I saw the opportunity to share to another audience. So thankful for you guys joining us this evening. So if you are new to nature journaling, or if you are an experienced nature journaler with all kinds of habits already, I hope to bring you a new perspective. So we will get started. I'm going to have you guys just drop in the chat from a 1 to a 5 where you're at on your nature journaling journey, right? Are you a 1, just starting out, figuring out what it's all about? Or are you a 5 with your journal and your fancy watercolor pencils and the whole shebang going out every day? All right, we got a 0. Okay, no worries, no worries. Got some 5, 1, 3, 2. Oh, thank you guys so much for sharing with me. And it is totally okay that you are out of 1. Everybody's got to start somewhere. It just helps me gauge where to go in the conversation just to know where you guys are all at. Wonderful. 1s and 2s. My 1-5 I saw, you'll have to let me know if this is a fresh perspective for you. And we'll see, check in with everybody at the end, see what we found out. So as we get started, I always love to take on the emotional intelligence, and there'll be more on emotional intelligence later, but let's check in with ourselves, right? Where are you at on the mood meter? Now, if you've never seen a mood meter before, no worries. A quick Google search will give you 80,000 different versions, but they're all going to be very similar. So you'll see up at the top, you've got your real high energy emotions. Down at the bottom, that gets to less and less energy. And on your left to right spectrum, you're going to see more unpleasant over on the left and a little more pleasant as you move over to the right. So if you want to drop that in the chat, we'd love to see where you're at, but you don't have to share, right? Nature journaling is a personal experience. So if you would like to share, we would love to know where you're at. And if not, just make a mental note in your head. All right, we got Raylene excited. Nice. Pleasant, enthusiastic. I love it. Overwhelmed. Oh no. I hope I can make it better. Intent, relax. Not gonna lie, when I saw that we had a full house on sign ups, I myself was a little on the nervous side, but still super excited to share with you guys. Grateful, relaxed. Awesome, awesome. So with this being the beginning of a new year-ish, right? It's February now, but still a new year. I like to stop and reflect on the year prior. Now, we're going to do this in a very different way. I don't know if you have ever reflected on a year using a tree cookie, but I have some very terrible examples of branches here. So you'll see this is fairly small, not the actual trunk of a tree, but from a branch of a tree. So we're going to say that we are the tree, and 2024 represents a branch of our tree. So if you've got some paper around, or if you have your nature journal with you, we're gonna take our piece of paper, make our little center dot, right, for the beginning, and just make your rings for each month of 2024. Now, if you were a tree, and if you have ever heard of tree cookies before, you will know that their rings can be different sizes every year. They'll have a lighter side that's the spring, that's full of growth, and then a darker side that's from their fall, a little bit less growth. But we're seeing, a big ring if it was a good year and resources were plentiful. And then on the years that maybe there was a drought or maybe there was a lot of trees competing for the sunlight nearby, they've got a smaller ring, so they have a less growth. So think of each of your tree rings as a month in 2024. Start in the center with your little dot, your heartwood, and then make a ring for January. It can be big, it can be small, depending on what January of 2024 looked like for you. And then you can just do that same thing with February. Was February a good month? Were resources plentiful for you? Make it a bigger ring. Or maybe there was some drought in your life. Maybe there was a fire. Maybe there was too much competition. And you're going to have a smaller ring. So then you should have 12 rings, one for each month of 2024. And I don't know if anybody brought paper and pens to do exercises. I hope you did. But if not, you can just make a mental note and do it when you do have some pens and paper. So super simple. Just start with your heart ring, heartwood in the center, and go out each month, being skinnier or thicker, depending on how that month was for you. How are we doing? Are we making tree circles? I've never actually done this class as a webinar. I'm usually in person and running around our little outside space, checking out everybody's tree rings. Webinar, right? The blessing and the curse. You can't really go outside because there's not great internet. If you've never heard of a tree cookie before, there is a fabulous Minnesota Department of Natural Resources Project Learning Tree activity and a Science World activity on tree rings. If that is something you are really into, check it out. But hopefully now you have your tree cookie of your branch of 2024. And we're going to use that to kind of each month look at and reflect. So this year, I am most proud of accomplishing the biggest challenge I faced this year. Looking back, I feel my actions were aligned with my values when and I nurtured my relationships this year by spending more time with family, carving out a potluck day once a month. Where were you at in 2024 on these things? And again, I feel like I'm just kind of talking to a wall. So if y'all want to drop some things in the chat. Yeah, so we're just taking a second to reflect. If you drew your tree ring, your tree cookie of 2024, what are you most proud of accomplishing for that period of time? You can even say one thing in each ring that you were most proud of accomplishing. If you can remember back that far, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like January of 2024 was just like 3 years ago. biggest challenge. You could take out your biggest challenge for the entire year, or maybe write in a biggest challenge in one of your tree rings, one of the months. Maybe you had the flu in February and that just really brought you down. No worries, Heather. I can't remember what I did 5 minutes ago either. And it is an interesting exercise, and I would be definitely happy to share the slideshow with anyone that would like to go through it. And I believe we are recording it, Katie, right? So they can go back and watch and pause and go through these exercises again at another time.
Yep, we're recording.
Wonderful. So if you don't have enough time to walk through each of these questions right now, you can always watch the recording, come back to your tree cookie, and fill in the blanks here. I recently went back into the classroom. My screen. Continuing your education, always fantastic. And of course, we're using the nature journaling here, so we're reflecting on ourselves as tree cookies. Doing this introspection, I always love to hit on emotional intelligence. So you have your 4 pillars of emotional intelligence, and that's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and social management. And I did not by any means come up with this. This is from Daniel Goleman, kind of the go-to resource for emotional intelligence. And I feel like the nature journaling really brings itself towards those first 2 pillars, the self-awareness and the self-management, so that you can see, like, where am I? What am I feeling today? You know, we started with that mood meter. Where were you at on that mood meter? Why is that where you were on the mood meter? And then moving into that self-management, like, should I be upset right now? Should I be nervous? Should I be panicked? You know, definitely not. Definitely not. But sometimes you should be, absolutely. And all of your emotions are valid, and it just helps to be able to recognize where we're at so that we know what we can take on and maybe what we need to say no to. Social awareness. How do the people around me feel? Can you see it from their perspective? Not quite in the nature journaling there, unless we were to all go out into the woods together and nature journal as a group, and then we could totally get into the social aspects. And that social management, you know, can you work towards a shared goal with other people? And especially if those other people have different values than you or come from different backgrounds, you know, how can we ensure that we are working together towards something? And I love the board of directors theory. So if you've ever had any kind of leadership PD, you've probably heard of a board of directors. And I like to think of the board of directors as your 3 to 5 people in your life whose opinion you highly value and whose thoughts you want to take into consideration when making decisions, almost like a real board of directors for an organization or for a nonprofit. There's lots of questions, and knowing who is on your board of directors can help ease some of that anxiety sometimes. But with our nature journaling, we want to start with self, and we want to be alone sometimes, especially for nature journaling. I find trying to go outside and spend time outside with other people, there's so much going on with the other people that I can't fully immerse with the nature and see the trees and hear the birds and catch a glimpse of the earthworm before it crawls back under the dirt. So find time to be alone, and that's okay, right? You've got to be, if you don't want to hang out with you, who else is going to want to hang out with you, right? There's no use in going out and trying to make new friends or find your significant other or your soulmate. Like, if you're not happy with yourself first, there's no reason why other people should want to hang out with you. And then your self-management, all right? Have you ever heard of your circle of control? Oh God, no, I'm not trying to preach. Unless you mean it in a good way, and then yes, I am. Have you ever heard of your circle of control, though? Let's have a yes or no. Okay, good way. Thank you. Yes, good way. No. Okay, so your circle of control are the things in your life that you have control over. That's going to be what you eat for breakfast. Who are you eating breakfast with? Where are you going after breakfast? You have control over that. But then there's things outside of your circle of control that no matter what you want to happen, something is going to happen that you can't control. And I feel like a lot of times, a lot of our stress and anxiety comes from trying to control things that are outside of our control. So again, pencil and paper in hand, we're going to make a small circle in the center of our page and a bigger circle so that you have a fried egg. And the center circle is your circle of control. And these are things that you have control over. You can brush your teeth in the morning, but you cannot make your coworkers brush their teeth in the morning. That is outside of your circle of control, and they're gonna have stinky breath if they don't brush their teeth. I know this is a horrible example. Everyone brushes their teeth every morning and after every meal, and it's not really a problem in the real world, hopefully. But you can offer them a piece of gum if you're trying to have a conversation with them and their breath is just like knocking you out, right? That would be in your circle. And the other piece of self-management is I like to ask people to get off of autopilot. And what do I mean by that? I would say raise your hand. No, we're not in a classroom. You can't raise your hand. But have you ever said to somebody, hey, how's it going? And you have to ask yourself, were you ready for that answer?
So
Yes.
we can actually raise hands. There is a raise hand feature right next to React, in between React and
Gotcha. Okay, we can raise hands. So raise your hand. There's a little button you can click. If you have ever asked someone, hey, how's it going? Without being prepared for that answer. Oh, look, it says who's raising their hands. Oh, how cool is this? I've never been on Teams before for a webinar, so y'all have to excuse my childlike excitement here.
and then you can click again to put your hand down.
Love it. Super cool. So when I say get off autopilot, don't ask someone how they're doing unless you are prepared to listen, right? Don't say I love you just because you're walking out the door. Don't say see you tomorrow when you don't actually have plans of seeing them tomorrow. There's so many sayings that come out of our mouth because our brain is a creature of habit, right? we like to do things and we like to do them often, and they're easier if we do them often. And one of those often things is saying things like, hey, how's it going? Without being prepared for that actual answer. And part of self management is knowing, okay, if I say, hey, how's it going to this coworker, and they have had a horrible day and they have parents with health issues and they've got a dog that needs insulin shots, and they've got their sister that's getting cheated on, and like, am I mentally prepared to give that person the space that they need to tell me how it's going? Because if you're not, and cool, I have days when I'm not either, but if you're not, maybe you shouldn't ask them, because you want to be sure that you're authentic in that. I feel like everyone's life could be improved if we were a little more authentic with our questions and giving people that space to actually answer our questions. So, where does nature journaling come into this? Not just tree cookies, but let's do the cool little raise your hand thing again. Raise your hand if you ever kept a diary as a child or as a teenager or in college. Your super secret diary, and you had a little key to it. Maybe it had a padlock on it. Yes. So see, you guys are already into writing. You're halfway there. There are lots of benefits that come from journaling. And just because we go from calling it our diary to calling it our nature journal doesn't make it any less beneficial. It's still great for helping manage anxiety. It's still great for helping you reduce stress. If depression is a thing that you are struggling with, you can make space in your journal for positive self talk. Because I messed up all my notes here. The thoughts inside your head become the words that fall out of your mouth. And the words that come out of your mouth become the actions that your body takes and plays out. And your actions that your body does become your habits, and your habits become your daily routine. So if we don't make space to start out positive up here in the thoughts, we'll never get to the positive coming out of our mouth. We'll never get to the positive actions. And we'll never get to making that positivity part of our daily habit. I don't know. Does anybody enjoy being around the sourpuss at work? We all got that one coworker that's just like, ah. Make space for positive self-talk, because you cannot help fill others' cups and get into that social management if your own cup is a little lacking. And again, let's add some nature. So not only can journaling help you decrease the stress, decrease the anxiety, going outside does that too, right? There's umpteen studies, and I'm sorry I don't have the studies in front of me, but there are lots of studies that you can look up that show spending time outside or even near a window where you can see a natural environment reduces your stress hormones like cortisol. It can lower your heart rate. It can lower your blood pressure. If you're outside, you probably had to walk to get there. So you're going to be a little more moving and have some more movement in your life. And then you're going to be able to improve your sleep. There is this light cycle, right? Everyone has a circadian rhythm. And the light actually hitting your eyeballs in the morning is one of those signals to, hey, it's time to wake up. And that's going to set the day and set the tone for when your body starts to put out the, hey, it's time to go to bed hormones at the end of the day. And of course, boost your immune system. Yesterday, the weather was fantastic, and we put all the windows up in the house and let all of that air circulation come through, because It is February, and my husband and I both work in a middle school, and there are germs everywhere, right? All the kids are sick. So outside is better than being cooped up in the house, for sure. Now, I don't know if you guys are all where you can go outside and get a leaf, so I might just walk you through this one. But I think this would be a great place. We'll pause for questions before we get into our next activity.
What do you use for your nature journal? Like what kind of paper, what kind of book?
I have a super simple, they're like 50 cents on Amazon if you order 100 pack. And this is what we do at our workshops. Mostly because I get the moment to nature journal. I will take the moment to nature journal. So I do not have a one book that stays with me at all times that I spend $100 on. I have these very nifty little 50 cent off of Amazon. And I also just keep paper in my bag and pens and things. So it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be expensive. It can literally be scrap paper and a pencil.
Isis asked, any suggestions for pinning down words to emotions? The chart definitely helps, but what if that's not accessible?
So when I do in-person workshops, I do have laminated color copies that we take out to Nature Journal with. So I've usually got these with me. There's also a very nice emotion wheel that I've seen used in a lot of different therapies and counseling sessions. So I like this one because it's a nice little half sheet and it fits very perfectly in my little 50 cent nature journal. And you can find the mood meter also. Just Google search mood meter and you're going to get every different color and font imaginable. I love it. Reusing old student work. I love it. I'm actually in the habit of shredding old student work to make shreds to make new paper with. So that'll be a new workshop coming soon. But a leaf rubbing. Show me those hands again. Have you ever done a leaf rubbing? Okay. Got it. So super simple. You take your piece of paper, you put your leaf under it, you make sure you're holding it down with one hand, and then you take a crayon or a marker and just rub over that leaf, and it will leave the most beautiful, perfect impression on your paper. Because one of the things that I hated about nature journaling when I first started on this journey was I see a beautiful red-headed woodpecker in a tree, and I'm sitting there with my nature journal. There is absolutely no way that anything I could draw would do it justice. And that was always like my hold back from nature journaling on a regular basis was, well, I can't draw. I can't sketch. I'm not good at sketching. I'm not good at art. Uh, and that would always frustrate me. So we focus a little more on words here. With your leaf, though, or we could say with this sweet gum ball, because I have a collection of them sitting on my desk right now for this very purpose. You can use all of your senses, except maybe taste. Don't eat the sweet gum ball. But I always like to take maybe a nice hot beverage when it's chilly outside, or a nice cold glass of lemonade when I am setting out to nature journal, or even just, your reusable water bottle so that you've got something to taste. But focus on your observational skills. So, what do you see, right? What color is it? What shape is it? What do you smell? Perhaps the sweet gum ball doesn't have a smell, but maybe some grass was just mowed and you can smell the grass. What do you hear? Right? Are there birds singing? Is there traffic nearby? And then my favorite, because I'm a very tactile person, touch. Right? Can you rub some tree bark? Can you roll your hand over some grass? Maybe touch that leaf that you found if you know it's not poison ivy. It's a whole other class, plant identification. And then I like to have that beverage to sip on, right? Is it chilly outside and I take a warm beverage? Is it hot outside and I take a cold beverage? Because the more of your senses that you can engage in this process, the more you can ground yourself in the moment, which can also be accomplished with a very simple breathing practice. And I don't have a slide for the breathing practice. And again, I didn't come up with it. I've just collected lots of things that work well for me. And one of them being a 4x4 square breathing. So to do the 4x4 square breathing, just kind of ground yourself in the moment, maybe at the beginning of your nature journaling session. You're going to take a deep breath in through your nose for 4 seconds and count to 4. And then you're going to hold it there in your chest for 4 seconds. And then let it out through your mouth for 4 seconds. And then hold for another 4 seconds before you repeat that process. So in your mind, while you're counting to 4, you're drawing your square. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. And it sounds really silly, and it's really hard to get people to like stop and think about their breathing sometimes because we're all in a hurry and in a rush. But if you just slow down and be mindful in the moment with your breath practice, you'll find your eyes can see better, your ears can hear better, your nose might smell better because you're actually present in the moment, not, oh, my to-do list, oh, when I get to work tomorrow, oh, when I get to my mom's house later. You have to be present in that moment, in that natural space. And it doesn't have to be a park. I love our state park system. I love our county park systems, but it can be your backyard. It doesn't have to be some big, extravagant, let me go somewhere to nature journal. Sit on your back porch. Maybe you're at work and you do this on your lunch break. Maybe you just take a stroll around the parking lot. Most parking lots at least have a few trees scattered about. So find that natural space. And then we bring our feelings into it. So what you see, what you smell, what you hear, those are mostly objective observations. If you took a group of people to a specific space, they would likely see a lot of the same things and hear a lot of the same things. But then we move into subjective observations, and that's where you take what you saw and what you heard and what you touched and what you smelt, and you ask yourself, how do I feel about that? How does that make me feel? Maybe you hear lots of birds singing and that makes you happy. Maybe you hear a lot of traffic nearby and that makes you anxious. It doesn't matter what the emotion is, it's your emotion. But you've got to work on being able to recognize it and know why you're having it. And that's going to help you with that self-regulation to, should I be anxious about the traffic that's half a mile over that way? I'm probably not going to get run over. I'm probably going to be all right. And then once you're in your space and you have your observations, let's put the pen to paper. So that's where our journal comes in. And if you have absolutely no idea where to start with recording anything, writing things down, start again with your objective statements. What's today's date? Where are you at physically? What time is it? Because even if you're in the same space nature journaling on a regular basis, different times of day will provide you different perspectives. What's the weather like? Use your senses. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it rainy? Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? Start there. And then go back into that feeling. Use your breath work. How do I feel about that sweet gumball that I just stepped on with my bare feet? That one may not be a positive emotion, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be positive. It's your emotion. It can be good or bad. You just got to recognize it so that you can know how to manage it. And we already kind of touched on tools, but here you go. Keep it simple. You just need a pen and paper. Doesn't have to be a fancy journal. Doesn't even have to be an actual journal. It can just be a piece of paper. Or take it up a notch. I know a lot of people that have issues with shopping and buying things. So if you're one of those people, maybe you do want to go buy a special nature journaling notebook. And it will be your special purchase, and that will motivate you to use it on a regular basis because you bought it. Now you got to use it. You want to get more into your scientific kind of observations, it might be helpful to add a magnifying glass. If you are really into the sketching side and the art side of it, you might want colored pencils or crayons or markers. But we're looking at nature journaling to improve our life. So we're going a little more on the words and the emotions and the feelings. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to sketch some beautiful red-headed woodpecker on this dead tree in this open field with this vast sunset behind it, because nature's already done that for you. Just be present in the moment and take that in. Artists are great at art, and I love the way they can capture things, and I love the way some photographers just get the moment and they get the tone and the composure is all right, the composition, they got their rule of thirds, and all that's wonderful for those people. But not everybody is those people. And that also is totally okay, because this is your nature journal for your observations and your feelings and emotions. And you don't have to show anybody, it can be completely private. So, however simple or however complicated you want it to be. Now, 2025 is here. It can be your best year yet. And nature journaling is going to give you some space to do that. So everybody makes a resolution, right? This year I'm gonna lose some weight. This year I'm gonna spend more time with my family. But I hope that on your list is spending more time outside, where you are going to make SMART goals instead of resolutions, because resolutions can be vague. And let's be honest, if you had made a New Year's resolution, you've probably already given up on it. So, S, SMART goals. I did not create it. I've simply collected it as a best practice that I enjoy, that I am sharing with you. It needs to be specific. So don't say I'm going to eat healthier. Say I'm going to add vegetables to my dinner 3 nights a week. It needs to be measurable. Can you measure, did I eat healthy today? Definitely not. Can you measure, did I have 3 servings of vegetables this week? Yes, that one you can. It should be attainable. Now, if you are somebody that's never spent any time outside nature journaling ever, you probably shouldn't make your SMART goal to spend 3 hours a day nature journaling every day, because you might get bored. It's not attainable. For a lot of people with a work-life schedule, even not attainable. It should be realistic, and it should be time bound. So with the vegetable example, you know, we said 3 per week, and then you would just say for how many weeks you were going to do that. So with the nature journaling, you could say 10 minutes a day, 3 days a week until tax day. And then maybe you reevaluate, okay, this is good. Now I need 20 minutes a day, and I'm going to go 4 days a week. But the SMART acronym will absolutely help you be more successful with that. And again, I didn't come up with it. You can type it into Google. You'll get umpteen million resources on how to write a SMART goal. Now, you're here because you wanted to learn more about nature journaling and improving your life. So, time to make it a habit, right? Those words become our thoughts. Or I just said that totally backwards. Our thoughts become our words become our actions become our habits. So, here's some ways to help you with your new habit. If you already have a morning or evening routine, throw in 5 or 10 minutes of going outside on purpose. Here's the part most people miss. On purpose. To nature journal. Walking to your car because you have to get in your car to go to work. You might could argue that yes, it's on purpose because you've got to get to your car to get to work, but you're not actually spending any time outside. Try making it a family affair. If you have a significant other, if you have children, if you have roommates, say, hey, you want to go hang out outside for 10 minutes? I got this book. We're going to write down stuff. Stranger things have happened. Give it a shot. If you are a very career-centered person with a very structured day for your work, maybe you have a lunch break where you could just go stroll around outside. Maybe there's even a bench under a tree. You never know if you haven't looked. And as always, anytime you learn something new, you should definitely share it with others. So whether that be coworkers, whether that be family members, whether that be friends, in whatever circles you're in, ask them if they've been nature journaling before. Sometimes the answers will surprise you, and then you can learn together or share tips and tricks. Who knows? And last but not least, as we come to the end here, got our mood meter back. Go ahead and check in with yourself. Where are you at now? Do you have more energy? Do you have less energy? Have you gone more to the side of pleasant? Have you gone more to the side of unpleasant? And if you want to drop it in the chat, let us know how it's going for you. Relaxed, motivated. I like it. Hopeful, peaceful. Oh, You guys are so wonderful for sharing. I really appreciate it. More enthusiastic. Nice. Happy and satisfied absolutely works. So, if you were interested, I do put together these nature journaling backpacks, pencil, bandana, crayons, my super nifty little notebook, and a pocket guide that kind of walks you through using your senses. And have some additional resources here. So, emotional intelligence for environmental educators. And if you're really into that artistic side of the nature journaling, John Muir Laws is based in California, and he has umpteen million YouTube videos on how to sketch even the most difficult wild animal. So I always love to shout out to fellow nature journaling because I am but one perspective of many on your nature journaling journey. So. Katie, I guess we can open up the floor, see if we have any questions, comments, concerns.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, wonderful. If you guys have questions for Brittany, please feel free to put them in the chat, or you can even unmute yourself and ask them out loud. We can use the raised hand feature if there's multiple people, especially who would like to ask questions out loud, and I am happy to help facilitate that. Raylene, you not emailed, you asked, when will you send my certificate for doing this class? I will be the one to take care of that. You'll get an email by the end of this week that has both a link to the recording of the presentation as well as the certificate. Any other questions? You may have asked this, you may have answered this already, Brittany, but what got you started on like using a nature journal in this way?
Right after we had come back to semi working on a normal basis after COVID and everything got shut down, I was able to be part of one of the workshops with the North Carolina Science Museum.
Oh
And they
yeah.
took us out to the cliffs of the Neuse Park. And it was a lot of, well, let's look at these famous naturalists and check out their sketches. And I was just like, I can't draw like this. But then they set us out and said, hey, go find your own spot on the nature trail and just sit and be. And that was where I really connected with my own thoughts and my own feelings. And you're seeing the beautiful nature with your eyes, so keep it here and just where you're at, where it makes you feel.
Yeah, I love that. Lisa shared that she is working on nature journaling with her kinders. I assume that means her kindergartners. It's giving her ideas to use with her students. Do you have any like suggestions on how to like do this kind of style of nature journaling with very young children who might struggle with putting thoughts into words or even writing words?
So with the littles, it is better to focus on the art. Like take them out and say, hey, go find a pine cone and let everybody go find their own pine cone, and then maybe come back to a circle together and walk through using your different senses. And they're going to be more artwork based. And depending on how many you have, or if you have an assistant, like ask them to walk you through their sketches. And then you can kind of write what they say. Now, don't write what you see. Very important with the little ones. Write what they tell you that picture is.
Hey, Lisa responded and said they do focus more on the art, but spending time in nature has inspired them to write.
it. Love it. I
Yeah.
do. I will say, just because you're on there, I have several things for free on Teacher Pay Teachers. More of a middle school focus, but there is some nice handouts that you could work with on there,
Nice.
along with, umpteen million other nature journaling things on Teacher Pay Teachers.
One thing that I have liked doing with nature journals is sustainably as possible, like collecting things and like taping that into your nature journal. So you don't have to draw it. You can actually just like put it in. So if you see like a flower that you really like, pressing that and putting it in, or if you're talking about the different kinds of soil in your area, actually like collecting little bits of the soil and taping that into your nature journal so the kids don't have to draw it, but they can still like collect it and label it and talk about how it feels and where they've seen it before and make some of those connections that Brittany was talking about.
Absolutely. And, if you're doing it with the littles, maybe not quite the same scale of emotional intelligence, but still very important to get with that. How does this make me feel, and why maybe do they feel that way? Because I interact with so many middle schoolers that are just like, oh, outside, it's gross. Don't make me go outside. And there was some kind of disconnect somewhere there. They're just like not having it.
Any ideas for big kids? Forgive me, I'm going to mispronounce this name, but Daisha says that this has been giving her ideas for observational assignments with her juniors and seniors.
I love incorporating narratives, right? Like nature's narratives. It's the storytelling. So you could definitely get with your ELA teachers on the older students and see like what kind of text they're working with, and how maybe they could even just go outside to read the text and see if they feel different about the text that they are reading from reading it inside versus reading it outside.
So to
Especially if it's something as hard to read as Shakespeare, because that's what I remember from my senior year.
one of the things that I do, this is Daisha, by the way, and yes, you did pronounce it correctly, is that, so I teach a zoology elective. And so the kids have to do an observational journal, and they can either do it with photos or they can do it written. And the kids really struggle getting started um, because they have to do it for a longer period of time with the goal of seeing it through a change in at least a season. So it gives it very helpful to get them started, which I appreciate.
Yeah, and especially if you've got that long term, like you would really be able to dive into their emotional intelligence. Like maybe they're having an off day and they don't even notice that the leaves are falling off of the tree. And then the next day, they go outside like, whoa, that tree is naked now. I totally missed that last week the leaves were falling. And kind of take that introspective look at their observations.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us tonight. It's all we've got time for. Brittany, thank you again for presenting. For those of you seeking environmental education credit, as I mentioned before, you'll be receiving a follow-up email later in the week with the environmental education form. I'll have this recording available on our environmental lecture series YouTube playlist with the City of Raleigh Parks. And we hope to see you guys again during our next lecture. And I can tell you what that is. Janina Mills of NC Division of Air Quality will be talking about the Air Quality Index and where that number comes from, what the pollutants are of most concern, details of that nature. So if you are interested in that, please make sure you sign up. There's still some space available. All right. Thanks again, Brittany. And you guys have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me.
I'm going to stop the recording. There you are. And I'm going